Welcome to FightLine, brought to you in conjunction with Buy My Fight and Westbound Logistics Services. My name's Ben Doughty, and I'm delighted to be joined once again by my erstwhile verbal sparring partner, the one and only Spencer Fearon. How you doing?
How you doing, Ben? You good?
I'm very good. It's great to have you back, live and in living colour, in the flesh this week, much as I enjoy those phone conversations. You, being as excessively modest as you are by nature, you might not relate to this, but I am going to give myself a little shout out for my performance last week, tipping on the show.
For a golden contract?
Not just that, but we'll get to that. For the golden contract, first of all.
You're on fire for that. I'll give you a round of applause there. Round of applause.
Appreciated it. Listen, I said 4 names that will advance through to the semi-finals of the golden contract tournament at York Hall last Friday, the light welterweights. I gave you Jeff Ofori, the late sub, and I gave you Ahara Davies, Tyrone McKenna, and there was one other guy, the French guy, Mohamed Mimoun, all advanced through to the next round. Now, let's be clear on this. I said 4 names from you and 4 names from me. We only differed on the one. You fancied Kieran Geffen instead of Ofori, who was the late sub. Yeah. It was pointed out to me when I proclaimed myself, a prognosticator in this regard, that someone said, listen, mate, your accumulator would have lost. If you'd have bet on all those 4, you would have lost, because Ofori versus Geffen was a draw, and it came down to some kind of countback situation or similar.
Well, it didn't happen on the night, though, did it?
It was a split draw, Spencer. That's what happened. Ofori did not win. Here's the thing. I was very specific about this. I said 4 names that will advance through, so I'm claiming the fact that I got those 4 names right. But it's an interesting point that because of the draw, they reached the draw on the cards, a split draw, I'm sure you understand what that means. And then the referee or somebody had a casting vote based on either pure preference, or it may have been similar to the countback situation in even fights in the amateur system. And Ofori advanced on that basis. So I will clarify that you couldn't have won the accumulator. Having said that, I did say that I was only going to go for a treble because I couldn't find odds on Ofori at the last minute last week. So I'm still right, whichever way you want to slice it. But somebody else told me something interesting too. He said, if you go back to 365, they would void the draw and still let you have the treble if you did that. So I think the Bet365, who we will be using some of their odds to help us this week, we'll give you a shout out on that basis. And if you fancy getting in touch about sponsorship, we're going to be all ears. Okay, the other one, all right, let's talk Callum Smith versus John Ryder. This is where you, in your inimitable way, the verdict came in, which was getting roundly slated. Callum Smith versus John Ryder. It was a very controversial decision. The world and his brother seems to think that Ryder was royally shafted. I do think he won the fight. You, as only you can, jumped up straight away, screens grabbed a bit of last week's show and said, if you know boxing, you know boxing. I predicted Smith on points. But did you not get it wrong, essentially, along with the judges?
I didn't. Listen, bruv, you want to be careful. If you want your ratings to slip, then let me dip. I'm saying to you now, right? If we watch the fight, yes, John Ryder could have got the decision. But what are we taking into consideration? Are we taking into consideration that John Ryder's lost a few fights? John Ryder is not the star in ascendance. Taking all of those things into consideration, right? It was a blatant robbery. I've seen blatant robberies, right? Sven Otka versus Robin Reed. That was a blatant robbery.
But it's still absolutely wrong.
No,
he won the fight.
No,
he absolutely his tactics and execution were perfect.
He was excellent. He was absolutely. But these are the things
Smith wasn't there.
When I'm watching boxing now, these are not the things that I'm taking into consideration. I'm not taking into consideration like it's on equal grounds. I'm taking into all the other intangibilities.
That's what Glenn McCrory said
into a fight.
Glenn McCrory, who was commentating for DAZN on the night, he said, I was partly factoring in those things that you've got to look at the favouritism. You have to look at the champion status, whether we disagree or not with this hoary old maxim that the challenger has to really take the title. Having said that, I think Ryder did.
The last 3 rounds, he did take the title.
I think he outfought him at range on the inside. I think that I expected Smith to come on, and it never happened.
Right. So did I. And if you remember originally, I thought, maybe Smith late stoppage. But then on the Friday when we were at Golden Contract, Johnny Nelson, the former cruiserweight world champion, showed me a picture of Smith, and he looked drained as anything.
And didn't he? Did you notice in the corner Tony Sims was saying to John around about the 10th round.
He's dead. He's finished.
He said he's weak as a kitten. You know he is, John. And that can only allude to a struggle making weight, because he'd never normally refer to a fighter like Callum Smith as weak as a kitten,
I know.
unless he knew or understood that.
And I'm also taking all that into consideration. John Ryder should have got the decision. I'm being real, but I was looking at, like, you know what? John Ryder has come on a lot. If you look on his last few fights, he's come on a lot. He's more comfortable at this weight. And John Ryder is one of the best super middleweights in the world, because we're looking at Callum Smith as being the Ring Magazine
champion,
super middleweight champion of the world. And something's gonna come out. And not only that, but after the fight, Joe Gallagher looked very, very disturbed in interviews that he was doing.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is this, where I believe that him as a trainer, Joe Gallagher, and he was British Boxing Board of Control Trainer of the Year as well, should have his mindset on the fact of, look, we got past this one, let's just move on, right? Let's just move on. We don't even need to talk about it. Let's just move on.
Sure, and I'd be very surprised if John Ryder were to get a rematch, but like you say, that is boxing.
Listen, I hope to God that he was to get a rematch, but the thing about it is this, on that performance, John Ryder has now arrived. He's here. He's one of the best super middleweights in the world, right? And a lot of people could be arguing and saying, like, he's the uncrowned champion.
And at the end of the day, if somebody had followed your tip last week, they'd have won the money, and that's what we're here for.
Right.
One more recap before we look at this week's action. I did tip Deontay Wilder by KO 7, 8 or 9 round group. As luck would have it, because it is luck, you can't ever claim that you knew something was going to transpire, but luck would have it, he was rather laconic effort, looking like he was waiting, setting him up.
Artful judgment, I'd like to...
I think Wilder, he's got so much confidence in that lethal power in the right hand, he will literally spend half the fight trying to set you up for it, 6 rounds.
Listen, the confidence that man possesses, right, makes you realise that boxing is 100% mental.
Yeah. See, a lot of people say it's 90% mental, and you just cut to the chase and said it's 100% mental.
No, bro. 100%. Deontay Wilder is demonstrating that it's 100% mental. Let's check this one out. He's there knowing that, all right, then I'm just going to kind of stay in the fight. He's pushing out jabs, right? He's in the fight. He's losing the rounds, but he's in the fight, but always in the back of his... but always in the back of it. He said, don't worry, any moment now, when I hit you with his right hand, you're going to know. And that is confidence. Trust me. And it's the compliments of him looking back on a back-to-back when he's saying, like, oh, well, he's knocked out 40 opponents. And out of the 40 opponents that he's knocked out, only 2 of them have been ranked in the top 10. Who's
top 10? The
only
WBC?
2 on Deontay.
Because there must have been a WBC top 10, right?
Right. On Deontay Wilder, on the guys that he has knocked out, I'm saying, like, if you to look at a universal ranking,
see, this is it, because I saw that meme. I saw that Joe Lewis had 27 top 10 opponents beaten. Wilder only had 2. But I always ask who's top 10. They must have been ranked by the WBC, which some people tell you is the premier organisation.
Our name is powerful, man. You can slip anyone in. But I'm saying this. Deontay Wilder, he's the real deal. He's a real deal for the simple fact, with that punching power and that cerebral confidence that he has, he is a dangerous man. I don't care if he knocked out 75 million road sweepers, the guy can punch. And it's ridiculous, his punching power.
We look ahead, as far as he's concerned, it looks like the Fury rematch is on February 22nd, despite certain people's scepticism about that. But moving on to tonight at the spiritual home of British boxing, the York Hall, your friend and mine, Commonwealth light welterweight champion Philip Bowes.
Both of these guys are my friends.
Yeah, okay, I know.
Both of them are my friends.
But you go back longer with Phil, as do I. But listen, Philip, the Commonwealth light welterweight champion, also contests the vacant British light welterweight crown versus the young upstart Bowes-Ennis Brown, a.k.a. Riddy Rival.
It's a good fight. It is a really, really good fight. Guys in the know will look on someone like Ennis Brown or Riddy, and not because he does things very untextbook. Like,
yeah, I mean, right? I spoke to you on the way here. I think he does have a supremely amateur style. He's very bouncy. He's quite slick. He's got good hand speed. He's got nice footwork. But I think even allowing for the fact that I like movers and I like hand speed and all the rest of it, I think he literally never sets himself for a millisecond in which to sit down on his punches.
Yeah, I know.
Whereas,
something
unlike Philip, who knows how to do that.
Something in him doesn't sit right. Yeah? But the thing about something that he's unbeaten in what's he, 11 fights
13,
now?
I believe.
13 fights now, sorry. So he's unbeaten in 13 fights, so he must be doing something right. And he's beaten good men. He beat Glenn Foot. That is a very good win.
Probably the most impressive win on his rather flimsy resume up to now, yes.
Right. So we can't look at him and think like he's some easy kind of thing. He's not an easy guy. He's not an easy guy to fight. And he's got confidence. He's got mad
I was about to say,
confidence.
on the subject of Deontay Wilder and boxing being 100% mental, this kid has a look about him that he feels the world is his and everything in it. I looked at them at the weigh-in yesterday. It looked like the weigh-in, rather low-key affair at West Ham Boxing Club. But the smirk on his face as he's got this. Philip, as you see in this picture, that represents Philip rather well, sullen, not giving much away. You know, a certain mist in the eyes, and he looked like that. Philip looked like the truculence and the kind of "Are you mad, bruv?" kind of look. This kid looked half friendly and half listen. I'm going to buy you a soda when I beat you tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's
kind
what
of
he said on the show, right?
Did he actually say that? I didn't know that.
Actually, yeah, it's mad. That's what he said. He said, "Look, after the fight, me and Phil can be friends. I'll even take him out in the pub for a drink."
Okay.
But he said, "Right, this is a business, so I'm not taking it that personal." I'm looking at the both guys, and I'm saying, right, if Philip wins the British title tonight, he will be the oldest ever recipient to be crowned super lightweight or junior or
light welterweight champion, let's say.
Or light welterweight champion in the history of British boxing.
Joe, yesterday on Facebook I said he'll become the oldest man ever to win the British crown at 140, and someone said 140, that's old.
Right. So I'm saying it's down to who wants it more. And it's down to whether we all know the skills that we know Philip Bowes' skill from years back. He's a very, very talented human being. He's going to have to bring all of that to the game to offset, because when you're dealing with someone who deals in work rate and fitness, your skills and pretty stuff, it don't mean nothing, because they don't care whether they miss, because they're not thinking about, oh, he's going to make me look bad. They're just saying, I'm going to get the job done. And he's like, and he's a southpaw as well to boot. So we've got two southpaws going in there, and it's going to be the one that can offset the guy and the one that can establish the jab the best who's going to come out victorious. And it's not an easy fight to pick.
I agree with you. I think work rate is the key for really, really rival, and that's something that Phil is more of a punch picker. He's more economic with his work. I think Philip is the harder puncher. I think at this stage he's the better fighter, the more mature fighter, and I think he should win. But when you get two southpaws in who are both stylish, doesn't always mean they're going to make a stylish fight.
Well, stop
two
for a
boxers
second.
can make ugly fights.
Exactly. But the thing about it is really, really rival. Ennis Brown isn't that stylish, right? He's got a style unbeknownst to himself.
He floats and he pops.
He's got a style unbeknownst. You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of Michael Spinks in the amateurs.
Herky
he's got herky-jerky in the amateurs. Michael Spinks as a pro kind of sussed it out a little bit. He's still herky-jerky. He's got herky-jerky style. Anybody that's going to offset a talented slickster like someone like Philip Bowes is someone who's going to have a herky-jerky style, but has got an engine on them. And this kid's got an engine on it.
That's true. Here's my thing. Philip has only ever lost when he's been out-hustled by aggressive fighters, which this kid doesn't fit the bill of that. I'm not saying that makes it impossible for him to win, but you look at the fights Philip lost to Johnny Coyle, Glenn Foot, and he also has a stoppage loss, I believe. The name is escaping me right now.
Right,
but it was another guy who out-muscled him and out-hustled him.
But I'm saying
at
that time, this is the next thing. Certain people mature late. With Philip Bowes, it started to click with him. He started to realise the potentiality, and he's made his potentiality come into actuality now because he's become Commonwealth champion, and he is fighting now with self-confidence. Before he didn't used to fight with self-confidence.
He never believed in himself as amateur.
Right, yeah, I know. He didn't. All he wanted to do was, like, you know, as we know, these guys on these ticket deals, and thank God for Buy My Fight.
Yes.
Right. He just wanted to sell his tickets, get an unknown guy from Latvia to go and fight and get a win and tell everyone I'm a boxer. Then, now he believes it. He's walking like he's a champion now. You look at on everything. His demeanour, his presence is that of a champion, and he wants it now. And that's why it's going to be a great fight.
It's going to be a fantastic achievement for someone who's come up the back road like Philip without any big fanfare and without any special backing. If he can wake up tomorrow morning as British and Commonwealth champion, that'd be an amazing fairy tale career story.
An incredible achievement.
As no doubt will for this kid. This kid will become the first boxer from Gloucester to win a British title. My good friend Johnny Melfer had a gallant, outgunned, attempted it versus Harold Graham back in the day. Yeah. He will be. This will be interesting, tonight, because me and Natalie are going, and we're going to sit with Johnny Melfer and his two mates from Gloucester. So me and Natalie,
Johnny Melfer is a real good guy.
Me and Natalie are going to be supporting Philip. I know that they're going to be, all team really rivals. So that's going to be an interesting little kind of demographic socially on the night. Let's look at the odds, Spencer. Now, I couldn't find anything because of the relatively low-key nature of this fight, and we make the point it's not televised, which is a shame. It is remarkable how little a double, credible title fight can mean in this day and age, but that's the way it goes due to promotional ties and whatnot. He's the favourite, Bowes-Ennis Brown, at 2-7. This is where I honestly think the bookies have got the odds back to front, and I think they do this quite often on fights where they don't really know that much about it, and they're a little bit off the radar. They're phoning it in. They're phoning it in. Yeah. Your draw is 16-1, which that's quite a slim price on a draw, and it could, I wouldn't rule out that verdict by any stretch. Philip Bowes is better than 2-1 at 5-2 for the straight win, and I would be lumping on that. I would definitely recommend anybody. Whether you're acquainted with the fighters or not, if you fancy a value bet this weekend on boxing, I would go Philip Bowes for the straight win at 5-2. Comments?
It's a really difficult fight. And
are you going to sit on the fence because you're an MTK person?
No. This is how it goes. Is this MTK Global, my family? Like I said, big up Kingmaker, big up Sandra Vaughan. No. On the reels, I really like both guys. I'm just being real. I really like them. And because I really like guys, sometimes it's like, when it's a fight that you're not too sure on, and I'm not too sure on it because I haven't seen enough of really, I'm going to go with Philip for the simple fact that I think it's his time now. I believe that it's more his time than really Rival's time. I think it's his time if he can bring it. But I will not be surprised if really Rival out-hustles him and beats him on points because he's not a concussive puncher. And because of that...
It's going the distance, I really believe.
It's going to go the distance. So you know what? I'm going for the 16-1 for the draw.
Little wild card bet.
Right, you never know. I'm just going to throw it out on the draw. You know what I mean? I'm more hedge betting over to Philip's side, but I'm saying I can actually see this fight going a draw because of the work rate that and I reckon it's a 12-round fight. And I think they could go 5 rounds apiece with 2 even and then call it a draw at 115 apiece.
You heard it here first. We shift our attention now to the Midlands Mayhem card promoted by venerable old Frank Warren, featuring the British super featherweight champion Sam Bowen versus...
I like him,
Sure. The Bullet versus Anthony Kakashi. It's a good fight, Spencer. I know a little bit about Sam Bowen because from my friendship with Carl Greaves, he's been raving about this kid in his pre-title days. He is something of a beast and a machine in that ring. Kakashi is a good fighter too, though. He's only got the one loss to Martin Ward back in 2017.
No shame in that.
Slick fighter, switch hitter. This is this really is a decent domestic pairing. I tend to lean towards Bowen with the champion's confidence and the fact that not necessarily that he's undefeated and that Kakashi has a loss. I would expect Bowen to prevail, but I don't know how much you've seen of this Irish lad from Belfast, but he really is a decent stylist. Quite similar in actual fact to Martin Ward, who...
I was at their fight.
Yeah.
So, but I like Bowen. He's all-out pressure and his aggression. Mm-hmm. But Kakashi can take it as well. I've seen him take some hard shots and he carries on fighting. I would not slightly favour. I favour Bowen to win this fight. I think all the odds are stacked in his favour, and because all the odds are stacked in his favour, I've got him coming out victorious.
Let's have a look at those odds. I was at Leicester back last year, in the spring of last year, when he won the, I think it was the vacant title, as titles often seem to be vacant these days for whatever reason. But I was there at King Power Stadium when he stopped Maxi Hughes to ascend to this particular domestic throne. And it was the relentlessness of him, because Maxi Hughes is a good fighter, and nonetheless it was the relentless attack that ground him down. You get 13-8 on Sam Bowen, which really isn't a bad price on the KO. Actually, let me do it in normal terms. What's interesting here is we don't have the straight win price. That's something like that. That'll be my fault for not addressing that. But for Bowen on points, you've got 11-8. You've got 9-2 for the same scenario with Anthony Kakashi, and you've got 13-2 for Kakashi to end it inside the distance. And the draw, once again, quite short, is 20-1. It's like I say, it's a bit of an oversight because I wanted to put the straight win price up because it does make a difference. But nonetheless, I don't fancy Kakashi to get stopped. I do lean towards Bowen. So I'm going with Bowen on points at 11-8. I think it will go to 12 rounds.
Yeah?
Yeah, what are you saying?
I'm going Bowen late stoppage. So I'm going to go with 11 to 8.
You're going to
What
go with
you
11,
want
13 to 8.
Yeah.
13 to 8, but
No,
that's,
I'm going.
the KO's
Sorry,
up there.
okay, sorry, my apologies. Yeah, I'm looking at the middle one there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It
what
should be that way, really. It's a bit, it's a bit
Yeah,
Irish, if you'll
yeah.
forgive that expression, to put it that way around. But that's the way back 365 I've done it. You know.
Okay, well, that's what I'm going for. I'm going for Bowen late stoppage, around about round.
Well,
9.
all right, let's look at that. Let me see if I can get you a better price than 13 to 8. Get the next screen up for me, lads, backstage. Okay, this is where we may get you a bit more value, Spencer. You're going late stoppage. Do you want rounds 7 to 9 or do you want rounds 10 to 12?
I'm going to go 7 to 9.
Spencer Fearon is going Sam Bowen to retain his title in rounds 7, 8
No,
or
sorry,
9.
I'm going to go the 11 to 1.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to go. I'm going to go for 10 to 12. That's what I'm going to go on. And next week I'm going to regret it because he's going to win in 7 to 9, but that's what I'm going on.
It's never easy, this gambling game, even when we're playing it theoretically like you and I. You know something, I've been nailing a lot of predictions recently, and people say, so how much did you win? Or hope you're betting on these, Ben. The truth is I'm not really
disgusting.
doing it.
What's the matter with you? Snap out of it, Ben. Come on.
I need to start.
Bills have to be paid, son. This ain't cheap.
I need to start having the courage of my convictions. But listen, okay, 11 to 1. I'm going with the 13 to 8 on points. And there we have it. Okay. Moving on to the main event on said Birmingham card, you have WBO bantamweight champion Zolani Tete versus John Riel Casimero from the Philippines. British fans will know this guy because he inflicted Charlie Edwards' first and only loss at this stage. Yeah. Back on the Kell Brook Gennady Golovkin card back in 2016. And, Tete... He hasn't had the best run of luck recently. The shoulder injury kept him out of the semi-final with Nonito Donaire, which may have seen him fight Naoya Inoue in that final, which ended up being a classic fight.
It would have fought Inoue.
You tend to fancy he would have got past on, with all due respect to a wonderful Filipino warrior, But yeah, I was looking at Tete again last night just to refresh my sort of sense of him in my mind. And I do really like Tete, as well as being, we know he's a puncher, but he's a wonderful boxer, wonderful southpaw stylist.
He's class.
He's got fantastic variety.
And he's got punching power.
He actually boasts the quickest KO in a world title win in history, I believe, which I think was 8 seconds back in 2017, although the opponent's name temporarily escapes me. But if you look at him, Spence, he's almost got a bit of a Floyd Mayweather guard from the southpaw stance. That's how he uses that defence.
Kind of, but which I don't understand him having that guard or like, what's it, the Philly shell, the Philly shell, because he's a southpaw, so what he's defending against, he's actually leading him into getting hit with a right-hand shot with an orthodox fighter.
I've never thought it worked for southpaws. Andre Berto used to do it as well.
I don't know why they did.
But
all right.
I will say it works quite well for him.
I spoke to Andre Berto this week, right, and I should have asked him about that. But you know what, I'm gonna now that you mentioned it, I'm gonna get him for next week, and I'm gonna ask him about that. But yeah, I don't get it. But maybe it's because people feel comfortable because the chin's tucked anyway. So no matter where you are, your chin's tucked from that.
I'll be honest, it seems to work for him, reasonably well in the couple of fights I was watching. He's been the distance last time, the last 2 times out. And he fought that guy, Mikhail Aloshin last time, who'd only had 4 fights. I'm not really sure what the story is there.
I have no idea.
The Russian guy who has had 4 fights going into that fight, which if you see a Filipino or a Thai fighter who's only got 4 pro fights, you know they've had about 600 Muay Thai fights, and the record is disingenuous. With the Russian Aloshin, I don't know, but it was certainly a close fight. That guy was a southpaw too, and the one thing that he looked vulnerable to constantly from Aloshin, Tete looked vulnerable to the lead southpaw right hook. Okay. This guy is an orthodox, but he does switch. He does switch it. I was looking at his fight, which I guess is what he won his mandatory contender status on the basis of last time out in his native Philippines. He boxed a guy called Cesar Ramirez. And one thing, although he's a predominantly orthodox fighter, Casimero, he does like to switch around. So if I was giving him any advice, I'd say you seem to be able to hit Tete with a lead right hook from the southpaw stance. Let's have a look at the odds. For Tete, the straight win, or once again, I apologise that I don't have straight win prices. I wasn't quite thinking about what I was doing when I compiled this, but we have points, KO and draw. Okay, for Tete to win on points, you've got 11 to 8. And for Tete to end it inside the distance, you have 15 to 8. For Casimero on points, you've got 11 to 2. It's a good price if you fancy the Filipino. And 9 to 2 for him to win inside. And the draw is 20 to 1. as I say, increasingly draws seem to be getting nearer and nearer in price when it used to be a default price of 66 to 1 back in the 1980s. But okay, so it's something that I'm a bit undecided on this one, Spencer. I strongly fancy Tete. I think he's been out for a while and he'll be looking to make a statement. Whether my only question in my mind, quite honestly, is whether he can end it inside the distance or whether Casimero will be there at the final bell. That's something I'm undecided on. If we look at the next page of prices, when we look at the scenarios for stoppage wins, if you see the first 3 rounds, it's 14 to 1 for Tete, 7 to 1, 4 to 6, 7 to 9 is 13 to 2, and the late stoppage rounds 10 to 12 is 10 to 1. I quite like the look of that price, I'll be honest, of the 10 to 1. A decision we already seen it, and a draw that's already been covered. For Casimero to win in the first 3 rounds, you've got 25 to 1, 14 to 1 in the next 3 rounds, 12 to 1 in rounds 7 to 9, or 20 to 1 for him to win late, which is, once again, I mean, it's, if he was going to pull off a stoppage win, I would expect it to be late rather than early. Of course, you never know. I mean, and that cliche about when 2 heavyweights are in there, I think Zolani Tete proved when he knocked a guy out in 8 seconds a couple of years ago that when 2 bantamweights are in there, someone can always get taken out with 1 punch. You know, I think we can dispense with that kind of...
When you can hit like Tete, then you can do that. He can punch.
What do you think? I mean, it's hard for me to say. I looked at Casimero last night in the Ramirez fight, and he's a decent fighter. He's got a good straight right hand. He doesn't seem to have much of a jab. He seems to be somebody more who likes to flick with a jab and find his range with the jab just so he can launch the right hand. He does like to step over and fight out the southpaw stance in spells. He looks like he's got a good chin. He's only been stopped once way back early in his career in 2011.
Yeah, but now he's fighting at a new weight. So,
true,
right,
true.
And
it was flyweight when he beat Charlie Edwards.
Exactly, and he was flyweight when he beat Charlie Edwards, and Charlie Edwards isn't a Charlie Edwards of today. So I would go for Tete to win this fight.
And by the way, you don't have to pick rounds. Personally, I'm going with the straight stoppage. I'm not going to mess with this week.
You know,
I just have a feeling I'd rather pick Tete inside at any point.
Yeah. So I'm going to go Tete inside distance, but I could see like he's got ring rust to shed in the fight. Yeah. So I would say like 7 to 9. What's that? 13 to 2. Yeah. For Tete to get the stoppage in.
So I'm going with the straight stoppage on Tete. I'm not risking any particular specific scenario. Spencer Fearon is going around 7 to 9 at 13 to 2. Before we wrap this one up, there's a couple of things. Next week will be a big show. I hope you can make it into the studio for that one, because we will be tipping and analysing the Joshua Ruiz rematch, which is a fascinating prospect. We can touch on it as a mere hors d'oeuvre this time. I spoke to you about a little bit off camera. From a boxing perspective, I really think Ruiz should be able to win again, but I have this nagging feeling it's not going to play out that way somehow.
You know what? I'm going Joshua for the fact that with all the stick and everything, and he's put his head down, and it's like we're not too sure who's actually going to win, but Anthony Joshua and KD's guy must be sick and tired. The amount of tapes of old school fights that I'm saying, just go watch this, go watch. I'll be sending them loads and loads and loads. Constantly.
David KD, one of Anthony Joshua's right-hand men.
He's the realest guy. Out of everybody in Anthony Joshua's entourage, KD is the realest.
He's a lovely fella, and also, 100%. If anybody ever had a chance to get fed up with me over various dealings we've had, I've tested his patience, and he's still a really lovely guy. He's in my corner. Right.
No, he's real. Out of everyone there, he's real, and I think there's a spiritual connection within his camp now that has been risen, right?
Yeah. I think there's a new sense of mission about Joshua. I believe
I do.
He could see it as a blessing as long as it all goes okay next weekend.
No, well, you got to think. I don't think it's a case like if it's all okay. I just think like there's certain fundamentals that were not addressed the first time out. And when I'm telling you that this boxing, when they say it's 90%, it's at 95%, we ain't got a guide counter. So I'm saying everything is mental, because you got to think it first, right? You got to think it. So that's your mental state, and your mental stability. And I think that if he can negate the fact of him being stopped, because you know it's like when you get knocked down, it runs through your head all the time. Mm-hmm. So if he can get that out of his head and say, right, I know what I did wrong and I know what I'm going to correct, and I think he's in that space now to say, this is what I'm going to go and correct, and I think he's going to go and do that. And I don't think it's going to be a barn-burning fight either. I think he's gonna.
Well, the first one was.
Yeah, I know. I think now he knows he's gonna box to orders. any time that he's inside punching range, gives the other guy the chance to hit him.
Yeah.
And one thing we do know is that Ruiz is a fantastic counter-puncher.
Yeah.
So he's going to be the guy that's going to use his elongated jab, use his size, use his physical strength and abilities, and box to orders. And I think off of the back of that, he's going to come out successful.
Okay, we will get into this and
Well,
how.
we're going to go deep next week. I'm
Next
definitely
week.
coming in. Don't worry, man.
You better be. FightLine, before I forget, is brought to you in conjunction with Buy My Fight. You know why I say that? Because you can't say brought to you by Buy My Fight. We're brought to you in conjunction with Buy My Fight and Westbound Logistics Services. Philip Bowes, who competes for the vacant British light welterweight title tonight at York Hall, has managed to sell 300 tickets, I believe, or thereabouts, with the help of this wonderful organisation.
That is really, really
without whom we couldn't do this. Westbound Logistics Services is a company that I need to describe to you at greater length before these initial 12 episodes are out of the way. Spencer, do you have the thing that you wanted to say? Because you know what you're doing, you put me on the spot now. I'm going to have to sort of delve into some of my kind of...
Don't worry, you've got more things to talk about.
I'm going to delve into some of my kind of other peripheral skills, like playing the spoons and such things as that, you know.
You're a good spoon player, so you ain't got nothing to worry about, brother. And unfortunately, I can't find it.
Okay.
I mean, oh, man.
Listen, come back next week when we preview the big one in Saudi Arabia. And that's another kind of holding tactic to ensure that your inimitable presence is in the studio this time next week. Thank you for watching. In the meantime, be lucky and keep punching.